Hello, this is ResilanBearcat, and welcome to our Apollo Let's Play series of Dyson Sphere Program. Okay, welcome back to the Apollo series that we have been working on here in Dyson Sphere, and this is going to be our final episode. But there are some things that I'm going to want to do. In our goal for this was to build a Dyson Sphere, and as you can see, the Dyson Sphere here is, we've made pretty good progress. As you can see, my Dyson Sphere looks like a soccer ball or a football if you're European, or anywhere else but the United States, I guess, would be calling it football. So it just kind of looked like a soccer ball to me, or a football when I did it first. I am in the US, so I end up calling it a soccer ball. Probably never get used to calling it a football. But we're just filling in, and you can see all the things from the Dyson Sphere just pulling into this. Generation capacity in the system is currently 20.7. That is still climbing. The Dyson shell itself is 17. Now we only have one layer of the Dyson shell here. You can build up to 10 layers, but we have not built any of those. We do have 3 different swarms here going on. But we're just, what we wanted to do was build this Dyson Sphere, see what it took to do that, and then kind of make that progress. So we're here on this Dyson Sphere. We have just over 100 of structure points that are remaining that need to be done. And then as far as the cells themselves that need to be filled in, we are actually coming down. We've got about 43,000 cells that need to be filled in to finish out the entire structure. So that's going to finish while we're running here in the episode. It'll be done before we're finished with this. We can see things, we can see the structure points being shot up here and kind of coming into this with all the little components, the cells being absorbed with. We're shooting out through with the vertical silos. We're sending things up into space. And so sending the small carrier rockets up. We're going to get this finished here in this episode. Now, one thing while we're doing this, we'll also just kind of take a look. We're working currently on vanes utilization. We're actually done locking another level 7 of that. We have queued up level 8 of logistics carrier engines, which will increase the flight speed of our logistics networks and the drones and vessels going back and forth. We've actually put in the queue, the logistics station integrated logic, which will actually let you stack things up coming out of the logistics station. Then we can actually we've got a drone engine, and then we've got another level of the communication control that we were doing. So just things that were queued up. Those will not finish by the time this episode is finished. They're just running pretty slowly, but we are making some white science. Now, from the last episode to this episode, there's been a number of things that took place where we had issues in our production chain, and we had to find those bottlenecks. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time here looking at the statistics panel. As you look in some of these different things, we can see when milestones occurred. There are still a few milestones that we don't have. Your first mini fusion power station has not been done. Power storage, haven't done that. There's a few things in here. Fractal silicon, the different things, the unipolar magnets. We haven't went and found any unipolar magnets. We haven't found any fractal silicon. There's still 4 milestones that we could achieve that we haven't done, and that wasn't the goal, to finish all of the milestones. So that wasn't what we were looking at. Our power, obviously on this planet, we are right on the edge on the real-time power as far as our generation capacity and our consumption. In fact, we're actually, in this planet, we need a little bit more generation capacity. So why don't we just go ahead and address that a little bit. And as we need some more capacity, we'll go up to the pole up here. So we have these ray receivers, and these things are producing photons. And one of the things that I discovered during this is when you're doing these photons, the power draw here is very high when it's pulling this out. And so, in the requested power, the amount it gets out of the Dyson Sphere, you can easily, when you start trying to generate photons, you can end up having way too many. And if you put too many of these down to start out, so the ray receivers and building those up takes a little bit of time to get that done. Now, I don't know if I have enough ray receivers. Oh, I got a ton of ray receivers. So let's do this right here. Take our ray receivers right here. Those will be too close to the path, but we can start right here. Oh, nope, too close. Let's get down here then. I'm just going to go as far around as we can, sticking these things in. I'm not going to be doing any kind of put that in here. Start right there, drag that around. And with this row of them, I'm probably not going to bother coming down in here and putting any. Ooh, and it looks like that's not going to be straight, but that is in line with what I was looking at. Let's go bone around here. Let's put some more of these things down. Now I could put the little green items in here. There we go. But I'm not going to do that, so some of these won't be running. They'll come up as they kind of follow the sun. So you know, I do have the graviton lens that are coming down. I can certainly bring them down here to where they run all the time, but that'll increase. Right now I'm just trying to get my power up, and you can see generation capacity is plenty high enough now without actually worrying about the graviton lenses. So that's just pull more of that out. But let's go back to the production chain and talk about the production chain. So one of the things, let's go to what I want to do here is the entire star cluster. We will actually look at the stuff that we're doing. So right now we're bringing in, and this is just some of the things that I ran into. Iron, we've got lots of iron. We've got some copper, you know, 1,600 a minute, 4,000 iron a minute, a little bit more, 3,000 silicon a minute, 3,500 titanium, 5,000 stone, 5,500 coal. You know, so we're actually making some of these different things that are going on here. Okay, so continuing on here, we've got fire ice being produced. Now, you'll notice we're not producing very much kimberlite ore, and in fact, we do have an issue. If you look at this, we are only mining out 50. We're only producing 50 kimberlite, and we're consuming 115. So that right there is a problem. Anytime we have, you know, I need to go resolve that now. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a production chain problem somewhere along the way. And you can go down the list all the way around. If you're producing more than you're consuming, that's fine. When you're consuming more than you're producing, like we are here with high purity silicon, your buffer is going to, you know, run out sooner or later, and you're going to have less than you do this. Now, some of this, if it's very close like this with the kimberlite and all that, that could just be a temporary thing, but you can kind of monitor this. Now, you can also monitor just not 10 minutes. You can also monitor an hour, and you can see whether or not you're producing less than in an hour than you were doing before. And so you can see the raw materials, you can actually see the kimberlite ore, and you can see that on the kimberlite ore in an hour, we've been, you know, we're underneath the production rate over a 1 hour period. So we're probably okay on the kimberlite. However, if you look at energetic graphite, we're not okay. You know, the production is lower than the consumption and has been over the course of the last hour. So that needs to be, you know, that would have to be addressed if we were playing longer term. So those are things I learned kind of looking at the statistics panel, looking at what we're doing, looking at, you know, we're looking for these gaps where I'm producing less or more than what I need. Magnets is very close. Obviously, I'm actually consuming more magnets than I'm producing. So I would need to add magnets to my chain. So that was one thing that I learned during this process. Now I'm going to come back out of that panel for a second. We're just going to check the status of this Dyson shell. We have finished, look at here, we are now completed with the structure. So we have sent all of the rockets, and there's no more rockets being sent up. You can see here that the rockets which we're firing out here from the fourth planet, you know, are no longer coming in. So at this point, we're now just finishing in the shell. We have got 486,000. We've got to go to 423. So we've got about 37,000 more there to go. But we're getting there very closely on the shell. So going back to things that I kind of learned in this process, the other components that we had was just, you know, power was an issue multiple times. I'd run into issues with power, couldn't get enough on the planet. I mean, I put down windmills, I put down all kind of other things. The other thing that I ran into quite frequently, though, as I was doing this, as I was doing my production chains and looking at stuff, was where am I producing some of these things at? And now that was a bigger issue, you know. And so one of the things that I did is I did use this map here to try to figure out where I was producing things and try to figure out what I was doing. So I then looked at the Apollo system. What am I producing in the Apollo system? I can see I'm consuming critical photons, but I'm not producing any of them in the Apollo system. That was one of the things, so then you came back down to, well, where am I producing critical photons? And I will bet that's going to be in Iota Voltanis. We've got different things here. If I come in here, critical photons, see, I'm producing them here. So I'm producing them in Iota Voltanis, which is where my Dyson Sphere is being built, and I'm shipping them back to Apollo. Not a problem, but I mean, obviously the logistics is necessary. I have to do some of that kind of stuff. So that was just where things, this helped, the statistics panel did help me. However, I also would tell you that it would be, I could also see some mods that would help find things as well. Where am I building things? I can see the Dyson shell. I can see the solar cells. I can see the structure points. I can see the cell points. I can see all of the cells that are out there. So you can see the number per minute that are being produced. The cell points, we're doing about nearly 500 per minute. So we got 20,000 to go. It's going to take a little bit of time to get to that point and finish our first layer of that Dyson shell. But you definitely have that in there. Now, achievements. I'm going to just point out, we weren't really focused on achievements, but this was my first playthrough of Dyson Sphere. I got 38 of the 100 achievements out of this in my first playthrough without making any type of an effort to make those things. Some of these things are just produce at least 40, certain number of things in an hour. You can see, yeah, I'm nowhere close to that. So scaling up to meet some of these demands as far as the universe matrices things, the garbage clearing function to clear 50,000 units of iron at the same time. There's some things that you'd have to do there. So that's a lot of things. I'm working on some, and then some down here I haven't even started. Cover an entire planet in foundations. Yeah, that could be done. Wouldn't be that hard to do. Take a little bit of time. That kind of thing. Cover at least 12 veins with one mining machine. I'm actually kind of surprised I didn't do that one. That was actually, I never even tried doing that, but that one could have been done. So, at some point in time, I may actually end up doing those, or I may not. Who knows? That's just part of the process. So what I'm looking for here really is just to get into the, where I'm at and what I've built and the different systems that I'm using. So we'll continue on here, just kind of going out. So the Iota Voltanis system is one place where we built some things. We built some things here in the Iota Voltanis system. It is another location that we built things out in. Now, if we look at some of the things, we also built some stuff here in AV Persei, specifically the kimberlite ore and the optical grading crystals. We grabbed some of those from here, and the things that were coming out of there. You can kind of see here on this map, it's kind of nice. You can see the little dots moving back and forth. So you've got the Apollo system, and we built some things in the Apollo system. I do not believe we built anything in the Amal system. Yeah, nothing coming out there. Actually, there's organic crystals there. 3 million organic crystals. That would be good. And 27 million fire ice. I mean, would be useful. But we're not doing anything in those. So we've got Apollo. And then as we get back into the Apollo system, let's see. Rotate this around a little bit. What we're doing here. We've also got the Leotis here, Minoris, that we did. We did our Arrakis here, and we pulled some things in from there. We also did Gorgana, is that correct? Yeah, Gorgana, and pulled some things in from there. So those are the different systems that we are actually bringing in resources from and doing various different things. So as you go out, you can bring out a whole bunch of stuff. We go out into the Milky Way, which was not really what I was planning to do. Zoomed further out than I wanted to. Let's let this thing. It comes in here. So our cluster that we're in is, and what we're doing, we've got all of that stuff in there. So I mean, this has been pretty cool. And you can see just the scale of just how far out you'd have to go to some of these way out, stars that are in this system and do that. Now, that is one thing that I will do in my next playthrough. And in the next series that we'll do, we'll talk more about the next series a little, just as we go a little bit. But I only really used, if you look at this, I didn't do anything there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I only visited 7 different systems, and I pulled in enough resources from 7 systems. Now, I did visit a few other systems that were close by, but ended up not doing anything. I went there and looked at them, but there wasn't anything in them that I wanted. But with 7 systems, I built my first Dyson Sphere. I do believe that in my next series, one of the goals of the next series is going to be to mine every single resource type and to visit every single system in the cluster, in the star cluster. That was not the goal of this time, and so with what I was doing, I wasn't really trying to do that. Only thing I wanted to do this time was actually build the Dyson Sphere itself. So that's what I was looking for. And different things. I do have to say is once you get to the point that you have these and you don't have to belt from these where you're mining at to get the other things, you can drop these things down, you can do a whole bunch of resource, and you can see, it's not filling it all the way up, it's consuming resources pretty quickly out of there, is pulling out the number of veins, but using the resources up and getting those out, having your towers to ship the items out is really good. We've got items coming in here where we're using these to bring power in, we're discharging power, sending it back out. Now, we should reverse this if you think about it. This should be the station where we charge everything, because this is the station that has the largest power. If we come back into power, we look at the generation capacity of this system is at 2 gigawatts. As far as this particular system goes. If I go to any of the others, like Versailles, that one's, it's 100 megawatts is all it can produce. If we go to the Organa system, right, it's 76, and it is not much. But Apollo is the other one. If I look at Apollo, I'm getting 1.6 gigawatts. So I've got a lot more production capacity here, 2 gigawatts at the moment. So this really ought to be the point where I'm charging the things here and then sending them out to the other systems. So right here, this is feeding power into my system, and send it out. But I wanted to just kind of do the power exchange. They're really not really required, other than a few of them for production purposes. But other than that, you really wouldn't have to have them. But I've been building those. I built a whole bunch of them. So once I had a bunch of those things built, it made sense to use them to power certain things. But that also, these things would be a great way to start power on a system, is that you have a whole bunch of these things charged in a buffer of those things. You could go to a new system where you're going to do that. Instead of having to put down the solar power and the wind power and all of that, you can start feeding it. And that would be the skill point, in my opinion, beyond where I'm at right now, is to be able to start dropping these in, providing my power this way for the planet, and then going through that. Each one of these things is producing 22.6 power. I'm getting from each one of them 22 and a half, roughly. It's not ideal, not identical, but it's a little over 22 for each one of those. So you can scale these things up as many as you needed, and then ship them back and forth. Once the things started coming in, you'd have a steady supply of power. And so, but in order to do that, you have to be able to produce that power. And I could see having a planet that was really a solar system where you had a Dyson Sphere or a Dyson Swarm, and then the point of it is to feed is to create the Dyson Swarm, feed it, and then do the other things. You can also just ship in the solar cells and put up the Dyson Swarm that way, but then you have to have the receivers, the ray receivers, that work as well. But just things to think about as you tried to scale beyond this. The other component that I had is logistics was just a problem, and then you can see this thing's coming in and out. And and I've got something that's somewhere that on it that's kind of it appears and disappears. And this is one of the things I ran into a lot, is this appears and disappears so much that it's hard to figure out where it's at, because it disappears. It's there, it's gone. It's there, it's gone. But I can see that it's on Apollo. Something on Apollo is running, is running low, of whatever that may be. So that was another component. Now, I never started using antimatter. I'm still using the deuterium fuel rods to power Icarus. The antimatter rods, might be able to do some of them and have a bigger fuel chamber, but with all the power that I have, I can go back and forth from Apollo to here in one jump. It's about 18 light years, but I mean, I can make that thing back into what I'm doing, so I was able to go back and forth as needed. And it is cool to get back into space and kind of see the planet here. So finding where I'm producing items, a mod to help you find where things are being produced, quality of life mod, that would be good. Especially as I've played this thing over several months that I've been playing this series here. It was easy to forget where things were and what was going on. So that will be one thing that I will do in the next playthrough, or try to do in the next playthrough. Let's see, let's accelerate this thing. You see, I mean, I'm starting to there's quite a bit. And then we'll jump to warp. A little over 18 light years, and we'll go across this thing and just check out what it is here that's running low. That thing has just started popping up. I don't know what it will be. That would be the nice thing when it's popping up like that, if you knew what the item was. If it would pop the item up on that alert down there instead of just showing you've got an alarm that's going off. Be nice to know what the alarm is. So we can spin around here. 8 light years. Actually, I've done a couple of upgrades on the jump distance and the jump speed, and then the amount of power that Icarus has. So this, I'm not sure. I was having a problem jumping all the way to Apollo, but it is very obvious that that's not going to be a problem on this jump. So I think the speed is faster as well as the other stuff. And then I find it's not that difficult to overshoot. So where is my... Let's see, 14 AU. Alright, it's out there on the far planet. I saw it pop up for just a second. Pop the warp engine back in a little bit. Oh, it's on Apollo 1. Is that where it's at? Of course, it goes off again as I get close. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Well, it seems to be... I don't know if it's on Apollo 1 or not. It does appear to be, though. It is so intermittent. Yeah, it is on Apollo 1. But we're going to be on Apollo 1 in just a minute. We close in here the last 3/4 of an AU. Astronomical units. There we go. It's on the far side of the planet in the dark part. Boom. Alright, let's see. I have to wait for it to pop up again to know what it is. But you can see I've got things here that are being produced. I've got some of the items. That belt is full, so that's obviously not what it is. That belt is complaining. That one is turned off. But it is moving quite substantially. Well, not doing much, actually. All of these are full. Just waiting on things to go out of here. So, and now that I'm down here, whatever it was is no longer yelling at us about whatever it is. Fail and no cargo. That has lots of cargo on it. Oh, it popped up again momentarily. And we want to find out what this is. It's just one of the different things. But this has been a recurring issue at times within this, is those things, they're there, they're gone, they're there, they're gone, they're there, they're gone. And so it's hard to keep up with exactly what it is that's causing the problem. It'll pop back up on the menu. We'll grab it. This one is failing. Yeah, see, now it's failing. So it's this right here. Of course, I have this one turned off. It does fail, but no cargo. There's nothing running. So that one's not the one that's alarming. And this just kind of highlights what you run into. And I spent a lot of my time in this playthrough in the last part of the series, kind of off camera, just resolving these kind of issues, just back and forth, resolve these kind of issues and figure out what was going on. So we're going to check on the status of our Dyson swarm right quick. You see there is no shell here in this system, so we can come up here, change over to this system, put this in here. 493, we are down to 20,000 shells that need to be done. So I'll be back when this Dyson Sphere is finished for some final comments. Okay, we are back. We can see that the Dyson shell is generating 18.3 gigawatts. The Dyson swarm is down to 1.8 gigawatts. That's because I've quit sending any. You'll notice that there's no more cells being sent into orbit. I went and turned all of those off. So the Dyson shell itself, we are down to the last 300 cells that need to be integrated into this particular device. And we can see this. It certainly looks like a football. And I actually had a football like this when I was a kid, or a soccer ball if you're in the US, and that was what I called it, was the soccer ball. But that was kind of my idea. I kind of laughed about that when I realized that I could actually do that and make something that looked similar to that. But that is our first Dyson shell. Like I said, this is just one layer that's giving me over 18 gigawatts of power here. So the overall power right now is 20.1 because we do have the Dyson swarm that's part of that. But we are now in the process of integrating the last few shells into this. We're down to 170 being absorbed. These shells are coming in, and we can see here that we are down to, we've actually got, let's see, right now we've got 280 left to go. So down to our last 280, the rate of the integration has went down, but this is where we're going to kind of call this series. As I said earlier when we were doing this was the goal of the series. So we're going to clean this thing up. And now this is static. Now that I've expended all of the cells and everything else, I don't have to keep putting cells into orbit. I now have this sphere generating power, and it will this particular shell will generate power and will continue to generate the power needed by this system, and could be used to generate through transfer. We could actually use the energy transfer to transfer the power to other systems, and that's really the way you should do it. You should build the first Dyson shell, get going, and then you could build multiple layers, but each layer will take more and more components. This was a full shell, and there's a lot of components in here. We can see a few more going in right there. We can see a few more coming in right here, but for the most part, this shell is complete. So thanks for watching the series, guys. I really want to say thank you to all the viewers who have been watching this and been following along. We will be starting a new series with new goals and some other things that we're going to do, but it's been a lot of fun. This was my first playthrough, and we're going to see on the next playthrough if I can be more efficient in some of the other things that I'm doing. Thanks for watching, and take care. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the like button and leave a comment to let me know what you think. Please subscribe to the channel to be notified when new content is available, and check out the link shown here for more gameplay. Take care.